Hello everyone, my name is Paulo and today I'm joined with...
Nathan Gomez, and now we have another guest today.
Hi guys, my name is Tim Bowboy.
Yeah, so Tim is a friend of mine, and we just asked him today in the podcast to come and give us a topic that he would be interested in talking about, and he decided to be early education and addictions. So we're gonna have an interesting topic here, but first I would like Tim to introduce himself, where he's from, how old he is, and just a little bit about his own life.
Okay, well, I don't know what to say. I'm from a little town called Eslöv, previously known as the most boring town in Sweden. So, still had kind of an interesting childhood. I'm 25 years old, just in just a couple of days. I'm currently on a break from studying to become a preschool teacher. And well, yeah,
That's good. So, because you said you were trying to study to become a child teacher, right?
preschool teacher.
Preschool teacher. Okay. So, what do you think? Because I mean, you were in classroom with the children and everything like that, right? So, how do you think the education or the way that they were educating the children was? Was it something good, or do you think there could be any changes, or what is your personal experience?
Well, yeah. Well, I think the theoretically, let's say theoretically, Sweden is one of the best places for preschools. Like it's the curriculum and the things that they strive for today are very very good. Like they are very based on the children and their own personal growth, and not so much fitting into a system, which sadly they come to later with the school, in my opinion at least. And but yeah, the in theory they're very good here in Sweden, but in practice it's a different thing, because I mean, change is always hard for everyone. And in preschools it's very easy to fall back on what you've been taught as well. Like for example, through the first period where I worked with children, I didn't have any education in it or anything like that. So whenever I got into situations where I didn't quite know what to do, I sometimes leaned back into my own upbringing. So like the way I was raised from my preschool teachers was kind of the old school way of they know everything, we know nothing. They're just supposed to fill us with information, and yeah, we're just supposed to learn and become something preordained, something decided previously. And yeah, it's so it's hard to take the step away from this, because with this open-minded new thinking that we're kind of going into now, it's unknown territory. So you can't really be sure in what you're doing unless you're very safe in yourself as a person, which I don't think a lot of people are today, actually.
So there, even though there's been changes, they've been trying to make some changes because of our because of our way we were previously educated, then you think that has an effect on how we're actually implementing these new ideas, or it still has something to be looked into?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, it's a lot. I think it's very connected to the social norms and how we as a society believe we should be. We have I think people are very lost nowadays, so we don't have such a clear image of what everyone wants society to be, so to speak. We're very shattered in a way, a lot of different opinions, which is very good, but yeah, it's how should I say it? I kind of lost my
It's missing a sense of purpose, something that we all need to strive for in a way.
A direction.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
it's missing guidelines in a way.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know how to put it, but yeah, it needs like it's hard. It's so much easier to follow set rules and set a journey that you know the way. Like when you see a path, it's much easier to travel the path rather than go, let's say, through like bushes and stuff, like where there's no path, like where no one has gone before.
Go into new territory.
Yeah, and if we want to use this new kind of like open-minded teaching and just like to act this open-minded way, we have to travel untraveled paths, because every moment is a new moment, even though, as many would say, history repeats itself, and there's a lot of cycles everywhere that you can easily spot if you just look into it. But still, there's always a new combination. We always develop into something new. Maybe there's elements of old times or old moments, but still, it's always a new moment, so to speak. So to go into this open-mindedness is to travel into the unknown, to go into the void, and it can be a scary thing if you perhaps if you overthink it like a lot of people do.
Okay. So you're saying that we're trying to get the kids to learn more open-mindedness, more staying by themselves. Would you say that schools are already teaching in this way, or they're still trying to implement it? It's not really working yet? Is this what you would say?
The thing is, like I said previously, there are a lot of places where you can't really, like, you see steps taken towards that way, but they don't quite know how to implement it. And I think a lot of it is because of this falling back to the old, to their comfortable habits, or so to speak. But I mean, there's been places like I was at a place where they were really just super focused, like on the kids, and there are kids like there was this boy that he was very, very, you would say, eccentric, maybe, like in the old days, or like previous, they would like just label him like having ADHD and like separating him or putting him in a special class or whatever. But now, like in this place, they actually were just encouraging him and always trying to communicate with him, because he was actually a really, really smart kid. He just didn't quite know how to socially express his feelings and emotions at times. And so you could easily notice this as well, because I as well tried some more open-minded ways with him, and try to speak with him when he would lash out about something. And I would just take him aside and just talk to him and ask him what's wrong. And, we would like talk it out, and he would like feel better, and he would like be so understanding. As long as I listened to him, he would be understanding and listening to me as well.
Yeah, I think the thing about children, at least, is that they're always very curious, but they're always willing to learn. So, at least from my experience, I always noticed with my father, if I did something to call him out, for example, or just trying to express my emotions for how I felt about him, he would lash out and he would just say, like, he's a kid, he doesn't know anything. So I think we actually, as a society, we don't necessarily give so much value of the wisdom that children have. Like, kids are actually very wise, and they're very like loving and caring. They just want to be supported, and they're actually willing to listen if you show them that you're also willing to listen to them. Because sometimes we tend to ignore our kids' problems as, okay, well, that's just kids' problems. But we have to guide them to be able to understand their emotions and to see where it's coming from. So I think it's very good that like the children actually come up to you and they want to discuss with you.
I mean, but yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying as well. We need to, but not only, I mean, this can be applied for everyone else as well. Because really, another thing that I've learned, like working with kids and being around adults usually, it's like there's no real, like, the difference is only that children are more how should I say, genuine,
More open, yeah.
yeah, then no, I'm
More
just,
expressive.
yeah, exactly. It's like we have all these filters, let's say, that we pick up through our childhood and growing up, and the older we get, I mean, there are of course exceptions, but most people, I would say, the older we get, the more filters we have, because there's defense mechanisms in place, psychologically, that, like, yeah, they limit us in a way. And we also, if you study a very low level degree of psychology, you would know that it's we can't even handle all the information around us, so we have to have these filters. And with children, I mean, if you try to just look back or imagine how it was when you were younger, it was much more like, the reality was much more volatile. It wasn't like decided that this was this, that's what, it was much more uncertainty, so to speak. And I think, it has to do maybe with the open mind, or it could be,
Willingness to learn more than anything, I think. Like when I look back at my childhood, at least, it was kind of like I was just such a curious kid. Like I was just curious. So the way of life now, it's like I still have my curiosity, but I think somehow I lost my curiosity and then I get it back. But I can see how these habits that we make and all these defense mechanisms that, like you mentioned, do mold us into certain attitudes and behaviors, which might not necessarily be for the best benefit or even truthful to who we really are. So I think it's important, like at least for me, when I was a kid, my mom took me to therapy and stuff. And now looking back when I'm 23 at those events, something that I really had completely forgotten about, I've been reminiscing about my childhood lately. And I realized that those things, like being able to talk out my feelings, have helped me nowadays be able to develop a more intricate relationship with myself. So, and I'm reading a book called Self-Therapy, which is really good about it. So I think when you're a child, like you said, you're more expressive, but you're also, everything is so grandiose. Like when something new happens that you've never seen before, it's like, wow. So there are some certain experiences that can affect the children very dramatically. So it's important for the parents to also spot those. Spot if your children, for example, is behaving differently. If you see something off that is not normal to his behavior, that normally spots that something happened and that the kid wants to talk about it. And I remember from my experience, my mom was really good at spotting that because I had a really close relationship with her. So I think it's important to always monitor how the children is acting. Like if you see some radical change of behaviors that are mostly negative or something like that, you as a parent need, or a teacher even, if you spot that in your classroom, you need to be able to talk to the kid and say, hey, what happened?
So in my family, both of my parents are social workers. My father used to work in an orphanage for refugee children that lost their parents on the way, and now he changed to be to work in a kindergarten. My mother is elementary school teacher since before my birth, so she has a lot of experience in that field as well. And I mean, sometimes I heard a little bit of their perspective and what they feel. And something that they stressed also in my upbringing was that it is very important for kids to have rules, to have a certain framework for a kid to orientate itself, but in that framework, freedom. Because if you don't have rules, some people say then you have freedom, but really that is chaos.
No,
that
no,
is something that no child can thrive in, and complete openness and complete ruleless society. But it is very important that there is a framework, but within that framework, and it should be a clear set out framework as well, because if it is a variable framework, that's when children also get very confused. If you tell them a rule, but then you yourself are not keeping it, or sometimes you just let the kid, you just ignore the rule or whatever. It's something very weird and confusing for kids as well.
I think the most important thing for children is to be able to teach them how to channel their creativity, how to channel their curiosity. That's the most important thing. It's not necessarily blocking it, but like you said, build an environment where it's good enough so that they actually be able to express it and use techniques to do that too, because we don't really get to understand our mind really when we're growing up at all. And we are a energetic body at the end of the day. So our emotions, everything, they're trying to tell us things. And it is good to teach children at least how to control them, how to navigate through them, how to be able to put them into something more productive. Because these are energies that we can use. We can channel them for our advantage. So a kid is always so energetic. He's always trying to put it somewhere. He's getting distracted. He's trying to figure it out. So if we are able to teach them how to control them and be like, okay, focus on what you like, I think it's the best. But he still needs to, set routines, because you need practice for these things. It's not something that just happens. But normally in schools, we're just like, you just go there, and try to sit down. Okay, I'm trying to be good. I'm just gonna learn this math or whatever. And, okay, we learn everything from the outside, but when we leave school, who are we? Who am I? I know my, I guess, like superficial knowledge, like for technology and just my math and stuff, but what do I know about life? What do I know about myself? So I think these are questions that, sadly, you're going to have to answer them sooner or later. So I think it's better that if we start developing our true selves since early childhood. So I think that's where our school systems fail the most, is not necessarily giving us the tools to be able to explore ourselves openly.
So basically what you're saying is that the task of schools nowadays is, or in schools in general, is to shape people and to form people into being mature and self-standing people.
Not only that, but to be able to think for themselves, to be able to solve problems. Like I got a membership for a website called Brilliant, where it's about math problems, but they teach you how to solve math problems like just by practicing and actually learning the problem solving skill. Most of us, when we learn math or things like that, and before I say this, like our brains are made for mathematical calculations. We all know math by default. We're doing calculations all the time, whether we know it or not. But math is a language, and many of us just get taught the formulas and not the magic, not what has actually happened about it. So once you have that curiosity, I believe, and you have actually problem-solving skills, you can take those anywhere, because your ability to solve problems and actually get to understand yourself guides you towards what it is that you actually want to achieve in life. Because if you don't know the tools necessary to solve a problem, you're going to think the problem is unsolvable. But if you have the tools, then it's a possibility. But you still have to work on your curiosity, I think.
Right. And a question that I would like to ask you, Tim, is so how do you see schools nowadays in society, since, families are getting more and more in this position of both parents have to work, parents don't have much time for kids anymore, and I think in Sweden it's like this, that from the age of 1, every kid has a place in a kindergarten or something like this. In Germany, I think they want to do it for each kid in the age of 3. So they're still a little bit behind in that. But so there is this kind of, kids are less and less time at home. Would you agree with that? And what would you say is the trend towards, like, schools are more important also to have the social aspect, or is it, what would you say about that?
Well, I think it's definitely a lot of people neglect their children almost. I mean, that's kind of harsh to say, I guess, but in some points it's actually a harsh truth. But at the same time, I can to some degree have understanding for these parents, because there's some parents that work, like you say, work a lot. Both parents have to work a lot, and they don't have a lot of time, for their children. And then, in some cases, quite often the dads, it's like they get home and they just want to rest, and you can understand, and they might love their kids anyway, which everyone should, at least. But still, they need that time for themselves as well. And I can kind of understand this, because I was in this kind of situation, because my dad worked 2 jobs when I was a kid, and so it was mostly just my mom and my 2 sisters like socially. We would like, hang out in the evenings, watch movies, and just have these like chill evenings. Well, Dad would like we would see him during weekends, but he would be kind of tired from working all week, nights and days and stuff. And but still, I mean, it's not that I didn't meet him at all or didn't have good times with him or so, but still there was this absence of him, and I can't help to think, like, wonder how I would be developed differently if he was there. Um, but the thing is, like I said, it's not because he didn't love me or whatever. He didn't want to be with me. He was just like, yeah, it was working for us. He was providing for us. He did everything for us. So, yeah, you can't really blame him. And it's a lot like that with a lot of different parents as well. Like a lot of other parents have the same situation. So it's important to have this, social aspects where you kind of have to take a bit of a parenting role as well, or a mentoring role. Let's say that's better, because the parents simply can't, which is a shame. But that's a different discussion with the whole economy and work and stuff. But that social aspect is very important. They need to have someone that they can look up to and feel safe with, and this doesn't have to replace the parent. I believe. I think children are smart enough to separate it. They can still have a good connection to their parent, but if they're absent a lot, I think it's important also for the parent to work towards getting closer to their child when they get the time. So it's like, so they don't just leave it like, okay, I had a lot of work, don't care about like not mentioning it, but it should like, they should work to have that connection still, while someone else is helping mentoring their child.
Which I find that so interesting that, I mean, Sweden kind of has this reputation of being one of the wealthiest parts of Europe, and people here, I think, in average, work less than in other countries in Europe as well. But still, you have this, that a lot of parents actually don't get a lot of time with their kids, which is, I think, kind of a strange development of society.
But I also think, like, even if when they do get the time, like, this is just from observation, but, like, for example, there's been a couple times where I've been to Max or something, and I've seen, like, parents with their kids or something. The parents are just on their phone the whole time. The kid is just kind of, like, sitting there, like, eating, like, blah, 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 but they're on their phone the whole time. So who knows what happens at home as well? Who knows how much attention parents are actually giving to their children nowadays? So if you're a parent, I think it's important that you understand that you have a responsibility. You gave someone birth. You're meant to actually guide them. And it's kind of like this question of, should we teach our children how to conquer the world or how to be safe in the world, right? Like, you have to be able to at least teach them in a sense how to, like, the realities of life. You have to be able to tell them, like, hey, life is like this, but you can still, through hard work, not just tell them, like, you can achieve anything and it's not going to cost you anything. No, actually teach them the values of things, teach them important tools, how to read, how to do things. And the thing about children is that they copy you. So if you're on your phone all day, if you're not working on your problems, or if you're not doing anything like that, the children's going to get that. So you have to be your best version for your children. They don't have to see everything. If you're not with them, you can be mad, you can be angry, you can let all your emotions. But when you're with your kid, you have to be your 100% best, because you have to show them how to become a better person, and it's something that has to come out of. At least for my mom, I'm grateful, and like, she always told me that I really helped her because she always tried to strive for the best for me. So she had that maternal love that pushed her to do better things. But it's important nowadays not to get distracted with the phones, but use that love for the benefit of the child. So,
yeah, I think this is actually a thing I've been thinking about a lot in previous years with the whole parentship thing these latest couple of years. I mean, I think it's been crazy because it's like, yeah, it's I guess also part of growing up. You like start seeing your friends getting babies and families and stuff, but also sadly, there's also been a rise of using parentship as a kind of escape, and at the same time, there's this aspect that you said, Paulo, that you kind of mature with your child because you get a responsibility which you have to come through with. But sadly, I think in this confused world that we're living in, a lot of people might just be thinking, yeah, I don't know what to do with myself and don't want to solve their own problems. That's why they get a kid and think that's going to be their new focus points and their old problems are just going to go away. And perhaps in some cases it might work. It might turn out that, like I said, they live up to this role and become a better person. But in some cases, I think increasingly more cases, it's the opposite, that they're maybe on their phone all the time or don't really focus on their child. They just see it as an accessory, perhaps. And I think that's very it's concerning. But then again, it's not an easy problem to work through, because then what are the options? We give out tests for parentship, but I don't see like that would feel like a very a bit strict.
No.
Perhaps like police state thing.
The only way for anything to change is by people changing themselves. This is something that is really, you have to work on yourself to do. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have our demons, we all have our things, but if you brought a child, you make sure you fucking get rid of those demons real quick, and you do the best for your child. It's that simple, because it's a life, it's a future, and unfortunately, if we keep raising our children the way that we are doing right now, we're just going to leave them a future worse than the one that we have. And it's like the ever-repeating story of, for example, the baby boomers or the previous generation blaming everything on the millennials and things like that. But come on, this is the world that you gave us. We were brought into this world. There's nothing, it's not our fault. We want to do something about it, and we can do something about it. But it's important for us to actually work on our problems first and realize that. Because, I don't know, I think the way we're going right now, because politicians, for example, faking, or saying that climate change is a hoax and all these things, it's derailing us. So if parents are so worried about their future and not working for themselves, they're going to neglect the children as well. So, and in a world that is confusing, we don't want to confuse children. That's the least thing we want to do. And I think right now, children and new generations are very confused because they're using social media so much. They're always taking pictures, always seeking that validation. And it's like, okay, where's the space for me? Who am I? So if we keep going this way, unfortunately, we're going to run into a lot of problems, because to be able to solve problems, you have to be open-minded. You have to be able to work with someone else. And it's very difficult to work with other people if you can't even work with yourself. So it's important to take a step in for a little bit. Like, many people want to change the world. Don't change the world. Just change yourself. The world will change itself if you do that. So,
yeah, I think on the subject of this whole phone thing and with the kids, I actually saw I can't remember the guy's name, but it was some sort of scientist and / author that was talking about children and this use of a phone and the addiction it actually is. Like we get a rush of dopamine every time we see that ding on our phone. It's like a drug for us, and a lot of people don't realize it and are not realizing that they're feeding their children drugs when they give them these things, because it's like you say, this whole self-confirmation thing through others. It's a poison, and it's a part of this the problem caused by this drug. It's horrifying, really, and there's so many other things too. Like in society, we're a society of addicts, because everyone is always. We always have to have our things, like we have to have our morning coffee, perhaps, or we have to have that night snack on Fridays or whatever. We have these routines, these things part of our routine, without even thinking about it sometimes, and yeah, it's we're smearing this on to our children now. It's like we're giving them phones at a young age. We're giving them candy, which is, if you think about it, it's like giving your kid cocaine. It's crazy. Have you seen a kid like amped up on candy? I swear, I've seen some stuff, guys, but like a kid on candy is like the Tasmanian devil from from the cartoon.
Yeah.
It's like just jump around, spin around, So, and we give this to our kids to think, and we think it's okay. We give them some candy and they'll be all right. No, that's gonna come back and bite you. Like that, we don't even realize it when they come back and go crazy. I don't know.
With this whole issue with phones, how do you think are schools dealing with that now? Are they dealing with it? I mean, I know from my school time in Germany, it was absolutely strictly forbidden to have a phone in school. Like if a teacher would see even the phone in your pocket, he might already point you out. I mean, towards the end, it was not that strict anymore. I can remember, but definitely in the beginning. And having the phone out in the breaks was in gymnasium it was better then, like there was no problem with that. But do you think that the way, like schools are getting more liberal towards that, like kids are allowed to have phones? When I was in Sweden 2 years ago, I also went to visit a school for 1 week to help a little bit there, and was the first time that I saw this. I saw a kid that had earphones during the lecture, and the teacher told me, it's for better concentration and things like this. So
what? Better concentration, but you can't hear.
There's it's something psychological that they found out, or I don't know. I don't know exactly. I don't know much about this problem and issue, but do you think this more liberal way of, kids are just allowed to have their phones in class or tablets or whatever, is this something that is beneficial for the children, or?
I mean, the thing is, like, in the lower ages, at least, or lower classes, I know, when I worked, at least, in a preschool, the kids that went to class close by, I don't think they were allowed phones. I'm not sure. But I remember, and like when I went to gymnasium or high school, I think the year after us had got computers from the school. It's kind of it was a very bad high school I went to. Let's just say that. So they had to bring kids in or students in by luring them in with a computer. It's like a MacBook. Who wouldn't want a MacBook? But it ended up with I heard from my friends and such that they were just sitting streaming movies, playing games, League of Legends and stuff like that. And well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a good thing, in school. I think it's important to integrate children into the technology, but it's not really a school issue, I think, because we adapt and we learn, and you can see a kid, you didn't need to teach a kid anything about technology. I mean, they'll figure it out. I mean, I've seen my best friend's little brother sat him at the computer at, I don't know, like age of 1 or something, and he already started figuring out some small stuff, like where to hit to make something happen. And like, so they know that, like, we don't need to teach them that. We rather need to teach them, like, I'm not much for rules and stuff, but yeah, we need to teach them how to, like, regulate it, how to use it in a controlled way, not to have it, like, for example, we have our phones in a meeting or such, we put it with the face up and like waiting for messages, always like ready, like junkies, like sitting there, when's the next kick, But we shouldn't let the kids dive into this addiction where they have to have that little input always ready, They should be able to disconnect completely from technology, reconnect with nature or just, be in the now and talk to someone and not hold their phone or have it on the table or even thinking about it,
I think at the end, like, one of the important things is, because at the end of the day, you need to give the children the technology. Like, technology is good either way. Like, I think their ability to have computers and research is very important. But for example, if your school gives because when I went to school, I remember that also the year before me, they started giving them computers to like process the web and stuff. But I think you can, like, I believe we can create some type of operating system where we have it only for schools, so that we only accept applications that are like school-wise applications or research and things like that, not just games or streaming, things like that. So limit their capabilities by essentially just restricting it to educational purposes, but still giving them the opportunity to explore those like things. But also, most importantly, use it creatively. I was watching a video yesterday about virtual reality and how it actually impacts your learning curve. And there was an 8% increase in learning in a virtual environment than like a school. Because like if you engage the kid in a game, for example, in a learning game where he's actively participating in it, he's going to learn much quicker. So we have to learn how to actually use the technology creatively and for the purpose of education, instead of just giving it there like, hey, here, have it. Because if you give a computer to a children, you're also giving it the keys and the gate to the internet. And there's a lot of things in the internet that a child should not be looking at.
Yeah.
It's that simple. The internet is not a place for children. We should have I believe we should have an age restriction on the internet. 12-year-olds, 8-year-olds should not be looking at the internet freely. It's that simple. We can say we can prepare them for the world, but no. There's things on the internet that are completely unrealistic and that can have a profound impact in a children's life.
I mean, a child has to have a certain maturity in order to deal with false information.
Yes.
And I mean, even we, in our age, if we keep feeding us with the false information, we still get into the trap of building up a wrong image. Like, I mean,
it's like sending them out to sea. It's like putting your kid on a boat and just sending him off to sea, because you never know. Like they might find some tropical island and I don't know, paradise. Pirate treasure, paradise. But there's sharks and there's maybe no food, and but anything can happen.
Sexy females near your area.
some nice what is it called? The fish.
Mermaids.
Oh. Yes. The mermaids everywhere.
Mermaids. Yeah, maybe. But those mermaids might be whale russes as well, just tricking them. The thing is, like, it could be anything. So I definitely agree with that. Actually, like I said, not much for restricting and rules, but yeah, definitely, because it's the wild. It's a jungle. It's worse than the jungle, because the jungle, it might scare you, but internet. The internet. See, I've been too much on the internet already. No, but the internet will make you crazy, like, in a sense. Because what is crazy, really? Crazy is just a really radically different perspective from another person. So if you spend all your days on the internet and watch crazy stuff that people just put together out of boredom, I mean, watching one or two of those videos might not change you much, but doing it all day, every day, which people do, like they sit in their phone when they're in a bathroom, like watching YouTube clips. It's like, at least when you doing a number two or taking a pee, at least then put your phone down and be in the reality and focus on your task. It's like, I don't know, but yeah, definitely, like, YouTube is
wipe my ass without this YouTube video.
YouTube is a very, very poisonous kind of. At the same time, it's a good hub, because like starting up, there's so much on YouTube, so much creativity, like so much of flow from people to just love to express something. But as of late, I think it's turned more into a trash can, or like a puke bucket, Well,
I think it's kind of like it's becoming to a reality show. So the majority of the big YouTubers are really just creating drama, and like this is what children are looking into. So yeah, it's just reality shows for children, and they don't have no fucking idea. So for example, when you look at the big YouTubers that children are watching, like PewDiePie or Face Clan or KSI, all these YouTubers, like, I think they're just portraying this message of life being extremely glamorous and like nothing serious, and just kind of like distracting, really. Like, someone said something mean about me. I'm gonna do this diss track, and I'm gonna get my boys, and we're gonna fucking go in a Ferrari. We're gonna be doing the Lambo, and children are like, oh my god, yes, I want that. Oh, he talks shit. And just like getting their kids super fucking hyped up for absolutely nothing. So it's like, I believe YouTube is great at the end of the day because you can literally learn anything on YouTube. Like if you really want to use YouTube productively, you really can. But it's also what you're looking into. So for example, for me, in my YouTube, I've had my YouTube for a very long time. So I have subscriptions when I was like 14, 16 years old. So those videos keep coming up and I sometimes watch them, kind of like a nostalgic thing. But I still try to spend the majority of my time on YouTube learning. So, but I can still see how if I get affected and I like clickbait those videos and just watch for the hell entertaining, I can imagine how a 12-year-old would find this hilarious. And like, you know, I don't believe that, you know, at the age of 12 or 14, you should really worry much about like how, like what to do in life. But I think after that, if you're like 15 to like 18 and you're still just watching those videos, it's kind of like, come on, like there's an age where you have to stop being a kid and slowly mature yourself into adulthood. And that's a very tricky transition period. And a lot of us don't even go through that transition period for a really long time. So,
I mean, recently I also realized just about my own YouTube consumption and how I just spend so freaking much time on this device. I mean, not only on YouTube, but also on phone games or whatever. And so what I decided to do was to do every few weeks, just do a media-free week. Like, not completely media-free, of course. It is almost impossible not to have internet nowadays. Like, you need it for meetings, for school, for uploads and everything. So I'm still using my computer, but I have like a ban on YouTube for this upcoming week now, and no phone games and anything. So let's see how that's going to go.
That's really smart.
But yeah, and I mean, it's something, you know, we actually don't need it. But to really do the step back, I think that's something that we all should do every now and then, and that is very helpful as well to see how much time do I actually waste.
I mean, I don't like, for example, when you say complete like a week free of YouTube, like I wouldn't say necessarily throw YouTube away, because at least I learn on YouTube. So I watch a lot of philosophy videos on YouTube and like math videos, for example, to try to learn something. So it's like, throw the useless parts of it. Throw the useless videos of things that you absolutely know this is absolutely just to waste time. Like those things, cut them away, because if you're gonna waste time with yourself. Like, you know, be in the present, being whatever you're going through. But if you want to learn or you want to do something, also use the tools, because it is a powerful tool at the end of the day. It's not about throwing it away, but it's about learning how to use it moderately.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not doing that in order to, you know, just throw YouTube away or whatever. I just see that, I mean, I use YouTube a lot as well for informative reasons. The thing is just that I have realized that the temptation, even when I just watch a good video, and usually I watch videos that are like 1-2 hours long, because it's like a discussion that someone had or something like that. I find this extremely interesting and very informative. But the temptation is always there to, you know, just scroll down, click on the next short video and trail off. And really, what I also realized is that even when we use YouTube informative, afterwards, we just click on the next video. We don't take time to sit back and think about what we actually just got there. What was it that this person just told us? Or in this discussion, what is it that we can actually take from us? It is a constant flow of information, because it is so easy. Like, you know, a book, you have to sit down, you have to look through the letters, it takes time for your brain to process it. It's a lot more difficult. I'm not saying it's very difficult, but it's more difficult than, you know, just having a video. You listen to it, maybe you look at it, maybe you're doing something else, but you don't pause and take time to think about what it is that you're feeding.
We become a passive just channel, basically. We don't process it. exactly. I think that's
I pause on videos.
Yeah,
like
I
at least
mean,
when I'm listening to a video and I'm like, that's like if it's like math video, for example, or psychology video, or available by Ellen Watch or things like that. When I watch those videos, I put myself in the moment mindset and then I reflect upon them. If I'm watching garbage stuff and I know I'm watching garbage shit, like I'm just watching this useless vlog just to laugh or whatever, then I just click on it and I keep going on it. Like if I'm watching football clips of goals, I'm not gonna, be like, oh, ponder about like, oh, yeah, that goal was really good. No, I want to see more goals. I don't care about that. So that's where I'm going back. It's how you use it. It's all about how you use it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is like, at least for me, it's easier for me to learn visually than for me to learn, just by doing something. No, visually I learn better. So that's just me. But when I see it, it's like I try to reflect, and even afterwards, if it's a video that really caught my mind, I try to think back and just remind myself, like, okay, this is what I saw, things like that. But I do agree with you that if you constantly just watch videos after video after video, you're not gonna remember shit. Like nothing.
No, that's actually another. See, this is another aspect where or aspect of the addiction in society. Because if you watch YouTube, just like Nathan just said before with short clips, it's really just another short raise of dopamine. Another lift, another high. You watch a video. That's like there are a lot of these like GIFs videos with the 5-second, 6-second videos cut together in a 10-minute long video, and it's just a bombardment of stimuli, really. And I think this helps also create this hyperactive personality that a lot of people, more and more people, actually are developing. And I'm not saying it's because of it, because it's been, I think it's been here before, but I think it's definitely maybe increasing, and maybe how should I say it? Maybe it awakens kind of a dormant, because maybe we all I think
it creates a connection in your brain. It's a pattern.
Because we all have the we can all get that hyperactive personality. I think if we, like you say, Paulo, if we just like get into a routine like that, we need this quick info, that we need this quick input. And then you sit there and you can't really sit still or do nothing because you feel your body's just aching to do something like every second. And it's too easy to fall back on this too. It's like I'm guilty of it myself. When I work evenings and usually work late. And when I get home, I'm usually really tired, but I can't really fall asleep. So I usually sit and watch YouTube videos to like relax. And which is kind of crazy because I watch these short videos that just bombard my mind with images and flashes and stuff, and it's it's crazy really how we do this to ourselves, and then we find it hard to sleep and are confused about it.
I think that's where meditation really can help one, because I've talked to many people, and I realized that a lot of people have problems sleeping. Like people my age. A lot of the people that I talk to, I have trouble sleeping. And it's like, now I listen to that, and it's like 5-6 people that have told me in the past week that they've had trouble sleeping. So I don't have any trouble sleeping. I sleep like a baby, but I also meditate a lot. And at least for me, like how I realized my mind has shifted in the past 2 years since I started meditating is like anytime I get like really distracted or that I notice that I'm not very focused. Because you notice it, you start feeling anxious and you're like, I have to do something. But it's important to notice it. And I think that's where the meditation really allows you to be like, yeah, okay, I'm like this. Then you build a pattern of when you're like that, you bring yourself to the moment, you bring yourself to the now, and you calm yourself down, and you're good. But it's a practice that takes time to develop. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years, but now I can look back and see how it's shifted. So I think it's important that we also give ourselves time to be in the present, to come within ourselves, because that's all it is. And it's kind of like to be or not to be, which is essentially being and doing. So there is moments where you have to do things, which is like the not be. But there's moments where you can come back and get in touch with yourself. Because if your mind is constantly in the outside world and is constantly wondering on how to solve problems that are in the outside, it's not going to give any nourishment or happiness or understanding to what it's inside. So it is important that we take time to come in presence with ourselves, calm ourselves down, appreciate ourselves, and understand that the things that are happening outside are temporarily. The majority of them will fix by themselves, but give yourself that calm moment to come within. Because, I mean, you are in control of your body at the end of the day. And the placebo effect is absolutely amazing when you think about it. But you know what I don't like about the placebo effect is that they call it the placebo effect. It gives you this like an illusionary effect, right? So there's two ways of looking at it. It's an illusionary effect because they're giving you a drug that is creating the illusion of healing. So it's an illusionary healing. Or it's a healing that you are doing yourself because you have the intention of healing and you believe in your mind that you're healing your body. So I think that's what's important. If you come to the meditation practices and you have an intention of being in presence with yourself, letting go of your blockages, being there for you, you will heal yourself because your body has that capability. But I think it's something that we have lost. We have lost it because we haven't gone inside. We haven't understood our bodies. We haven't understood ourselves. So we're always so focused on the outside that we neglect our body. We neglect our needs. So it's not how much you do, but also how much you are and how well you do things, how smartly you do them. So,
yeah, I think that's very true. But just to, when you say like not too much in the outside, I think you should clarify too. Like on the inside, it's more. I think, at least from my perspective now, it's more about feeling and just being instead of really contemplating. I would say. I mean, we all need to contemplate things too, I suppose, but we need to also just feel and be in the moment, and
we have to balance it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. We have to balance it, and I think that's a very hard thing for a lot of people today. And another thing that's been derived from the whole this whole 5-second generation, that we're just we can't work. I mean, I think less people. I'm not sure if less people. It's what I feel, at least, that a lot of people, at least around, don't really try because it's a long way, and it's we need this fast.
But nothing worthwhile is done quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything needs time, and from my experience, when I started meditation, I didn't expect it to be what it is right now, 2 years after. And, you heard the benefits, you hear all the things, but you don't really, it's trying to explain something to someone, like a color to someone that is blind. It's something that you really have to live with for yourself. And it is a journey, and it is complicated. It is a difficult practice. The practice of being conscious and the practice of being in the moment with everything and acceptance of what you're feeling, and also balancing should I think, not to think, because it is a balance at the end of the day. You have to be able to use your logical side, your left side, but you also have to be able to use to be in the present with what it is. So, but if we don't teach these practices when we're little, because I think a kid is able to do them much easier because they're able to understand. So if we were able to understand how our mind works and use them for our betterment since an early age, we will be much better. But we don't understand them. We're like, well, these are emotions. You feel them. You should be them. This is your thought. This is 100% true. But I still remember when I was a kid, for example, and it's still a thought that comes up that, for example, when something gets stolen or something around that, I always a thought comes up this is kind of dream okay, what if I did it? And it's just and feel guilty, wait, I didn't do anything. So then I always remember when I was little and I got that thought, I would look at it and I was like, well, that's bullshit. So the whatever the mind thinks is not all true. Thoughts are just thoughts. You're not your thoughts. It's just information flowing around in your brain trying to make sense of something, some way or another, and trying to get your attention. So we're addicted to overthinking. It's most important to come in the present and just be allow the realizations to come. Because, I don't know, that's just the way I see it. So I think it's important to teach children since their early age how their mind works, how to deal with their desires, how to deal with their pushings and everything. And a practice like that, or yoga, anything really that grounds you to the present, I believe it's very important.
This is why we should implement psychology from an early age, I believe, in schools and in preschools. You can easily teach psychology on a very fundamental, very low level to children. I mean, perhaps, I think, I'm not sure quite which age, but there's this scientist, what was it? I think from the age of 5. This is, of course, just based on one of the different theories. Like, there's a lot of different theories, but around the age of 5, they say, I'm not sure if Piaget or one of those guys came up with the idea that that's when the kid becomes more aware of things beyond themselves and things like social patterns and such. And so, from the age of 5, we could easily start just with basic exercises like empathy. Is actually, I think in a lot of places it's already implemented a lot with psychology through empathy, because we teach children empathy from early age, which is part of psychology, part of understanding someone else. And I think if we, like Paolo say, teach them more about learning or understanding themselves and understanding these defense mechanisms, like I said before earlier with the filters, that we could outmaneuver them, so to speak. Like, we could go around them. We could understand that they're there. We could feel the fear, perhaps, from before doing something, but understanding that, okay, this fear is just because of blah blah blah, maybe something in the past, or maybe, and then we could much easier, I think, go past them or go through them.
It's like the movie, The Dead Poet Society, and you haven't watched it, but you have to watch it. I think as a elementary teacher, I think you will like it quite a bit, and it touches ground with this conversation quite a bit. So
I mean, all of those teacher movies, at home we kind of grew up with them, because my mother, she loves them, like Dead Poet Society, The Children of Monsieur Mathieu, like movies like that, where it's like this teacher coming and kind of teaching the kids how to be themselves, how to develop their own personality and kind of think for themselves. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a part of my whole reason for this the break from the studying I have, actually, because I have I'm very self-critical, so it's a big part of it as well. But I think the role as a teacher or to be a mentor to someone else is a it's a really big role. It's it's a lot of pressure, so to speak. It's you have to. When you watch these movies, it seems so easy for the teacher just to go like, okay, find yourself, I don't know, do this and this, but it's like, was it Socrates who said it, or some very old philosopher said that you can't teach someone the answers, you can just teach them, like, show them the way, like, or so they have to figure out stuff themselves. You just kind of have to give them a slight nudge in some direction, and not like in a certain opinion. Yeah, just like help them find themselves, basically, is what I think he was trying to say as well. Because you're not really teaching them to feel this way or that way, like to be voting for a certain political party or something, like feel a certain way. You're just teaching them to find what they want to chase, what they want to believe in.
I think with, like, for example, Dead Poet Society, one of the best things as a teacher that he did was to inspire the kids. So I think that's what teachers should aim to inspire the kids. But it's very difficult to be able to inspire young minds to be able to think for themselves and embody their true identity if you don't do that yourself. So that's where it comes all down to, you have to go back for yourself first. You have to be able to be comfortable with yourself, think for yourself, embody the energies that you have, and saying, like, this is me. I'm going through this to try to inspire you to become who you're meant to be, to do the things that you love to do manageably, in a way that where you're able to maturely synergize with others, but also embrace your uniqueness enough for you to be happy and comfortable with it.
Yeah, definitely. But it takes a certain kind of wisdom, I believe. Which was, like I said, a part of my doubts Because I mean I'm 25 soon. I've lived a crazy life, but still I think I have a lot more to live and a lot more to gain wisdom wise that I could pass on and that I could guide better. But at the same time, like I said, it could just be all my self criticism. Just putting
Ralph Waldo Emerson said that men by nature were wise, but because the wisdom comes from a man's thought, he believes it not to be true. So we all have our own wisdom, we all have our own life experiences, but we also have to believe in our thought. We're always, the only reason why we like philosophers or anyone like that is because they say something that which we think, which we can connect to, but we don't believe it to be true. So when we hear it and we're like, yes, that is right, they resonate. So it is important to understand that we by nature, we are wise if we just think over the situation and look at it openly, like what led to the situation, not self-criticizing yourself, because that's not the way of wisdom. Wisdom is not reached through self-criticism. It's reached through self-analyzing, to be able to objectively look at the situation for what it was and what led you to that position. That's where wisdom comes from. So we all have life experiences, but if we don't look actually into them and what caused them, we're never going to gain the wisdom to actually not do the same mistakes again or things like that.
And I mean, I find it very nice what you said, that wisdom comes from objectively. So since we always have a subjective perspective, I believe that wisdom really actually comes from outside of ourselves. It comes from having a reference outside of ourselves. And that's where I believe that it's very important that we have a reference that is not based on ourselves, purely on ourselves. Of course, experiences and everything work to it and add to it, but it is something that we as a community get to. A communal set of reference, something that we as a community set up. Because I can make certain experiences and have certain interpretations of it, and if I base all of my judgment on my experiences, I will end up with something very confusing because my experience vary, my experience change with time. I don't have something stable. So instead, I think it has to be something that comes from community, that we as a community agree on. This is something that we got to, and this is something that we can agree on.
But I think, like, when you say it about subjectively, like looking at it subjectively, I think we still have the capability of stepping out of ourselves and look at the situation for what it is. I'm not saying it's easy to do, because, and even by nature, the experiences of others, the world by nature is biased. So each of our opinions is biased because it's based upon our own experience. Every single rule that we made or anything is based on someone's experience. That dictator that came into power and tried to create this type of government is based on his experience, based on his own bias. So we all have our own biases. But I think to be able to learn wisely is to, just like you said, also not just look at your experience, but look at how you affected others and look what actually made you to be there.
And you don't think that people who made rules that we have nowadays didn't do this?
Oh, I think they did. But for example, when you look at a Hitler, for example, right? He was just a soldier that believed in himself. He was a very insecure person, and his insecurities led into this. So he was very humanitarian, but he also had a lot of patriotism and just racism mixed into it. So there were two extremes. Yes. He didn't get to work his extremes, and maybe in his heart he meant well. But that is the thing about love, is that love is very destructive if it's not managed and healed properly, and it comes from a inner understanding of your place. Like, if he was there to rationalize, like, okay, what am I about to do? Where is this coming from? And actually understand that these behaviors came from an early childhood, a bullying, or anything like that, then, things could have been different. But that's not the case. He was bullied. A lot of mental problems and traumas that happened when he was little that created him. So society created him through his own experiences that he didn't get to see objectively. It doesn't matter what the others told him, because the whole world was telling him that he was doing something bad. I mean, they wanted to go into war with him. So, community-wise, he knew he was doing something wrong, but he himself, he maybe couldn't have seen it, because he couldn't step out of his role. It doesn't matter what society told him, he couldn't step out of his role and look at the situation objectively.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true because society was supporting him.
German society, yeah, but it was still the world against him, and you're still doing something that is morally wrong. I don't believe that somewhere back in his mind he was not having some certain sense of guilt, and I think that guilt, and when you indulge yourself into that, and then you get this power rush, because it's really like a power high. You get everyone in your favor. Sooner or later, it's kind of like, maybe this sounds like a very weird comparison, but it's like when you're masturbating, you're about to ejaculate. There's a point of no return, right? There's a point where you're just like, no, I'm just going to do it. So it's the same way. He got probably to a point where he might have been rationalizing things, but then the power high, everything that he had created, and he got into the story so much that he couldn't get out of it. That was it. He was all in. There was no way turning back. This is who he was. This was who he created, and there's no way of looking at his experience objectively.
But then again, this is exactly why we don't follow, or why we as a society decided we don't want dictators anymore. We don't want to follow people like Hitler anymore.
No,
we want to have a democracy. We want to society as a community.
I understand that, but I'm still saying that person to person, things in our experiences, if we don't look at them objectively, if you don't look at our experiences objectively, we just feed on our own experiences and not actually say we're affecting things, we can lead into those extremes. Just like Trump, for example. Like, you look Trump right now, same thing. He was a businessman. No reason for him to become president, really. He was doing just fine. He wanted the power rush, and now he's so indulged in the character that he probably doesn't even know who the fuck he is anymore. He's so confused. He looks completely lost all the time. Before that, when you actually looked at him 15 years ago, he seemed like a normal guy. He gave interviews. He was pretty rational. He was very intelligent. And when you look at him now, he's just a narcissist. He's embodying that personality so much. So you have to see these traits. You have to see how your society is actually affecting you. And you have to be able to separate yourself and look at your behaviors objectively. That, for me, in my opinion, that is really the only way for you to actually outgrow your problems and become the person that you're meant to be, is by being in the present with your emotions and rationalizing them in an open way. Separate yourself from the hurt, separate yourself from whatever, and take the lesson. Because if you don't, you're going to form into whatever it is that you're trying to create when you were confused, and then you can get lost in it. So it's important to understand that, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, then I absolutely agree with you on that. I didn't try to dispute this point, not at all. What my original question was, don't you think that people in the past did this as well? For example, our parents who brought us up, didn't they also reflect on their actions, on their ways of living in order to bring us to a better point? Because this is exactly what I would say, as if we become a parent, what we should do, reflect on our lives and our experiences and bring our kids up.
But we're privileged because we had those parents. But that's the thing. At least I can say from my experience, I was privileged that I had a parent that was open for me and that listened to me and that allowed me to express myself and gave me the support. That's me. I was privileged. A lot of parents are not like that, and a lot of children never get to do that. So the only reason why we're having these conversations is because of the sacrifices they've made, and the only reason why we're questioning and actually, being able to study these things is because of our upbringing. So we are privileged. But a lot of children don't get to do that. They just get parents that are distracting. They don't care for them, that just tell them to follow the routine, social media. You create that. You don't know who the fuck you are. You get out of high school. Well, who am I?
But at the same time, like, our generations have we have it easy, but we have it hard as well, because we're kind of a buffer generation. We're kind of in between, because like, as we were talking about before, like, I think our parents grew up with, our generation is one of the more insecure ever, because it's just too much information bombarding us and too much things, like development of stuff. Like, if you look at, like, technology and how it developed, like, it just exploded at, like, during our lifetime. So it's like we've gone through this crazy change, and it keeps changing. It's not stopping. It's just still new stuff every day. Every day has to be a new thing. Every day you'll read about a new invention, a new thing. It's something new, revolutionizing thing, it's always, so we can't really keep up. And so I think, yeah, that's why we're so insecure. And our parents were, when you ask the question, like, if they contemplated a lot or thought about how they acted and stuff, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, there probably was a lot of parents that did, but I think also there were a lot of parents that didn't, that only were kind of in their own head, because they didn't really have this insecurity, like questioning themselves. They just did, and so they maybe didn't think twice a lot of times. Like, I know, like, I had my relation to my dad has gotten like better through the years, especially lately, and we had a talk about like yeah, and how, like, our upbringing and such. And like, he knew he was always like the classic, like, grumpy old dad, you know, like like I said before, he came home from work, so he was tired, so he was like, oh, leave me alone, you know. It's gonna, I mean, I can look at it for like comedy. I think it's hilarious still when I think about it, but like, I don't think he thought so much about the bigger picture, because he also told me, like, when we had this talk, that he was like, yeah, maybe I didn't raise you in the best ways, and you can really tell that, like before, he would just act, you know. And then when we had this talk, you could really see it, look in his eye, that was like, yeah, like, he had thought about it, you know. And I think, you know, it's maybe a new thing for him and a lot of different people. I'm not saying like my dad is totally like a dumbass. He just charged ahead always. Like, he's a smart guy, and he thought a lot about things, but things like this, and like, I think a lot of people as well with other social stuff, they don't like really put any thought into it. They just kind of follow their reactions and defense mechanisms. Like, for example, another thing is this whole manly macho thing, you know, where you can't cry and you can't show emotion. I think another thing that my dad has kind of affected me with, because you know, I've never seen him cry. I've never seen him show that side, and it's weird for me as a kid, because I'm a very emotional guy. So like, as a kid, I would cry for a lot of stuff, like and you know, my sisters, they kind of also were kind of, from my point of view, I'm of course very mangled by the today's society, so they kind of were picking on me every time I was crying, because I'm a boy. I'm not supposed to cry. I'm supposed to be tough, you know. And yeah, I think it's another thing that's hindering ourselves from becoming our true selves, that we have these roles we go into, you know. Like I said earlier, we limit ourselves. It's another filter. Like I said before, it's another thing that you have to, I can't think this way because I'm a guy. I can't do that because I'm a girl. You know, these roles are destructive. You know.
I mean, I think from my experience, I was privileged that my mom always supported me when I cried and gave me the space. And it was like, you have to feel your emotions. You have to be with them, learn how to, you know, navigate through them. But a lot of men don't get to do that, and it's really sad, because man, woman, whoever you are, you have both female and masculine energies. So you have expression, you have feelings. It's okay. It's human. I don't know why you're trying to hide them or evade them. So I think it is important, like, especially with the feminist movement. Everyone talks about feminism, but feminism is about equality. And if we're going to talk about equality, we also have to talk about the role of man. And we also have to give time for men to explore themselves, because I believe that a lot of the problems that are in our society are caused because of the lack of men to get to know themselves and to express themselves. So I think it is time to have an open conversation, and also what it means to be a man. Like, what does it actually mean to be a man? It's something that is not really talked about. Like,
it has come into fallen into the background.
Yes, exactly. So I think we can have actually that conversation maybe next week. What it takes to actually be a man.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point maybe to end this here now. It's been a very nice conversation. Thank you, Tim, for coming by.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, and again, to all of you, thank you very much for listening. You can come by next week.
Yeah, if you would like to talk about what it takes to be a man, then, or yeah, we just have discussion of what a real man should be like in your experience, or just things like that, you're more than welcome to come in by. We'll receive you and we'll have a conversation with you.
Yeah, just contact us. Feel free to
Message either one of us.
Message either one of us. Leave a comment. Also, if you have something that you want to add to the conversation that we just had, some thoughts that came up into your mind, something you want to add, something you want us to maybe elaborate more, just feel free, leave a comment in the down below the video. And yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Yep. See you next week.